It's wonderful to have you all here. My name is Kim and I'm part of Sacred You, and I'm the facilitator today for our wonderful discussion on no one can hurt you emotionally except yourself. What I'd like to do is go around the room and starting with Heidi, if we can, just an introduction of yourself, Heidi, and where you're from.
Okay, thank you very much. I didn't see the go live stream yet, so that's why I was kind of waiting. So I live in Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C., and I am a life coach, and my mission in life is to help people become their own best friend. I specialize in trauma and abuse. People who have lived those lives and teaching them how to just become their own best friends again. So you can always go to my website to get a lot more detail about me. I'll kind of leave it at that, but I have about 40 years experience in the Indigenous community, as well as the psychological community. And I like to meld those and bring those together. I think it's very important for that, particularly working in that environment.
Wonderful. Lovely to have you here.
Thank
Claudia,
you. It's so good to be here. Thank you.
If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Kim. I'm Claudia from South Africa, Johannesburg specifically. And my company is Nourish Ways. And why Nourish Ways? Because there's a holistic way to take care of ourselves emotionally, mentally, and physically, as well as spiritually. And my tagline is awaken your inner power, which just like fits exactly with our topic today, all about self-worth, helping people and assisting them recognize that they've always been worthy, regardless of what they've been through. Thank you.
No, thank you and welcome. It's good to have you here. Julie D, is you okay if I call you Julie D?
You can call me Julie D. I appreciate that, Kim. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
So I'm Julie D. C, in case my husband is listening. Thank you for having me. I am the founder of Go Confidently Services. I am also an author, podcaster, and soon to be TEDxer. But most importantly, I love to work with women who are looking to build their confidence in their life and in their career and business. I help them be able to bring about the change, the tiny habits, the simple habits, to be able to make the shift so that they can live the life they've imagined and do so in a way that is congruent with their spirit, and more importantly, that they know that they can create an impact and belong in this world. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
No, welcome. I look forward to the conversation. And finally, our lovely Julie Nelson. Hello, Julie. Two Julies today, so we'll have Julie and Julie D.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Kim, your sound is a little bit soft, just letting you know there. I'm Julie Nelson. I am in the Blue Mountains, New South Wales, Australia, and I actually thought I woke up in the wrong season the other day because it was like we're going through winter again. So we're in spring here in the Southern Hemisphere. I'm the host of the Bewitching Tribe in the Sacred You community, and that's where I bring all of my tools and talents together: botanical artisan perfumery, astrology, witchcraft, clinical aromatherapy, which is my background of 31 years. And my mission is to help women rise unapologetically in their truth. I'll leave it at that.
Great. Wonderful to see you again. Welcome back.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. I'm going to be asking a number of questions and then going around the room and having you give your thoughts and opinions on them. So starting with Claudia, if we can. The question is, what does the phrase, and it'll be the same question for all of you, but what does the phrase, no one can hurt you emotionally except yourself, mean to you? And how does its understanding relate to emotional well-being and resilience in your life?
I think it means no one can hurt you except yourself emotionally. It means that we're responsible for our emotional well-being, but I don't think it's clear-cut. It's not an easy thing to say, I won't be hurt by anyone, how they treated me or what they've said. So as you said, it is a building resilience, work in progress. I think it's something we do every day. The introspection, how do we see ourselves? What can we change? And asking us those important questions on how to protect ourselves emotionally, but also remembering how other people treat us is not about us, it's about them. And not taking it personally, because everybody comes from a different perspective, childhood, different experiences, and we've got to remember and take that in mind when we think we are being hurt, but also on the flip side, we are humans. And this is a part of life, but we can do something about it. And remembering that everybody comes from different perspective, different experiences. So we can just stand in our power, and we need to know and trust ourselves that it's not about us, that we can make peace with that and know that, as I said earlier, that it's about the others that are, it's about them. It's either to do with their self-esteem or whatever the case may be, some sort of trauma or projection that they're putting on us. And we just got to remind ourselves of that.
Thank you.
I think this conversation goes a lot deeper than that, but in a little nutshell.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And Julie D., what's your thoughts on no one can hurt yourself emotionally except for yourself?
Thank you, Kim. One of the things that comes to mind when we're talking about no one can hurt you, the first thing for me is I'm a cognitive behavioral technique certified coach. So for me, it begins with what Byron Katie calls as the work, and really going back to our thoughts, because we all have over 60,000 thoughts a day, right? And no one can hurt you. No, our thoughts are really the ones that many times begin to create the feelings. They generate these feelings of, if I think someone said something derogatory about me and I begin to feel ashamed or angry or sad or whatever it might be, then those feelings are the ones that are generating, or those thoughts are generating those emotions. So when I hear no one can hurt you, I really go back to that work. And one of the things that I've learned is to ask, as Byron Katie talks about, is it true? When you're thinking something, can you absolutely know that that is true? And how are you going to react when you believe that thought? Because when we start to believe thoughts that may or may not be true, then we're really the one that is generating our emotions and really the actions that come after that. So really, and the fourth question when it comes to Byron Katie is, who would you be without that thought? And I know that it took me many, many years to get to this place. And I used to believe like, oh, is that person causing me pain? Is this person out to get me? But it really came not from that. And no one really was out to hurt me. But it was really, for me, an opportunity to take responsibility and know that it is what my beliefs, what my thoughts are that are leading me down the path to cause pain, to be in pain, or to be in discomfort. And that's really one of the things that this has been the work, right? For me personally in the journey is understanding that.
Thank you. And you mentioned Byron Katie, amazing, amazing person. I love her work, and if anyone hasn't checked her out, please do. She can be life-changing. Okay, we have our lovely Julie Nelson. Julie, next I'm going to ask you, what does the phrase "no one can hurt you emotionally except yourself" mean to you?
Well, as Claudia said, this is very deep, and this is actually an interesting conversation. The first thing for me is that when we're young, we don't understand, we don't know, and it's through our life experiences that we come to be able to understand this. And we've done inner healing, and for me, inner healing is something that continues through all our life. And so it's life experiences that bring us to this. So I think for a younger person listening to this, it would be quite challenging, whereas for those of us with more experience, we can look at it and go, oh yeah, and I know what to do. I've had the experience, I've got the tools. So I'm going to speak to the younger person for this, because I know for myself personally, it's just like, I had no idea. Why were things so hard? Why was I so emotionally affected by this? And I think education is a big thing. So for the young ones out there, perhaps look at yourself and seek support with people that you can talk to about this, because really, even with younger people, they're not emotionally mature enough to understand a lot of this. And we never know if somebody young is listening to this and going, what are they talking about? I don't understand this. So I just wanted to bring that up, because for me, it's about self-love. Everything comes down to self-love, how we feel about ourselves, our own self-worth, our own self-confidence. So it does come from within. However, many people are not able to understand that. So it can be easy for us to say, well, it comes from us, it comes from within, and it's not them. We've got to look at ourselves, but we need to get to the point where we understand that first.
Yeah, and it's a journey to get there.
It surely is. It surely
Absolutely.
is. I'll stop there.
No, thank you, Julie. And our lucky last, Heidi. It's all on you now. No one
That's
can hurt
fine. This is such a great question, and I just want to say ditto to everybody on this call. Everything you've said, I totally agree with that, and especially the fact that when we're older, we do have more skills. I always wanted to write the book called "I Just Didn't Know," but I'm not ready to write my 6th book, so I'm I'm taking a break on that. There's 3 things that I actually want to bring up in addition to this. When we do get to the point in our lives where we understand that it is our perceptions that are hurting us, not actually other people, we gain our own sovereignty, our own freedom, and our own independence. And we get to choose what we want to believe and not believe. And that's a hard one. I had a disagreement with my partner, James, this morning, and I just wanted to stay mad. Because emotions, even though anger and those things we define as negative, they're very powerful. We're emotional beings first. And so it is energizing to feel that anger. And it can be very energizing to also feel joy, but it's a very different energy. So some of how we react emotionally is, what was the environment that you were mostly brought up in? If you were brought up in a very joyful, happy environment, that is normal to you, and you tend to react that way naturally. If you're brought up in a very contentious, stressful environment, that tends to be how the biology of your body and your nervous system was actually created. And that's where so many of these tools that everybody's talking about are so important, because we have to change our neurology. If we don't change that neurological part, the way we react, the way we're sort of physically designed through our experiences to react, it's very difficult to not react. But the first thing, but we are emotional beings. The other thing that I do want to bring up that was very enlightening to me, because again, I love what everybody said, so bringing up something different. They now know when you experience an emotion, whether it's caused from the outside or the inside. And again, the things happening from the outside in trigger our emotions because of stuff inside of us. So it really is all inside of us. But this one actually kind of made me mad when I learned this one. Emotions are completely chemical in the body. It takes 7 seconds for them to fully engage in the body, the chemicals to be fully released. And then your body actually processes and gets rid of those chemicals of emotions within 7 seconds. So at the end of 14 seconds, the emotion has actually passed. It's our thoughts and our stories and our perceptions that keep them going. And that's why I say, like this morning, when I chose to just be in a really pissy mood, I'll use that word, I also understood I was choosing that because the chemicals had processed, and it's the stories and the things in me that keep the chemicals going. Because, you know, if we get honest with ourselves, anger and those things are very activating. And there is a side of that that feels good. And then one more thing, I know I'm talking a lot. One more thing that I do want to bring up. Many people believe that we're not supposed to feel those negative emotions. The emotions don't go away. Our perception might. We're still going to feel grief. We're still going to feel sad. We're still going to fall out of joy when something happens. You know, tune into the world for those of us that are empaths. Some days as an empath, it's all I can do to not feel everything that's going on around me. And I do have to go inside. So what we don't want to do and be very careful of is what's called spiritual bypassing. I don't feel those negative emotions because I only live in joy. That's not the true human experience. That takes us out of ourselves because we are emotional beings before we're anything else. So
Thank you. Yeah.
My long-winded explanation.
No, I love that 7 seconds into it and 7 seconds out of it. You know, it's about learning how to get off it once you get on it and learning how to do it real quick. You know, so. But thank you, ladies. That was fascinating. So I want to now, with starting with Julie D, I'm going to ask the next question, which is, can you share a personal experience where you've been able to protect yourself emotionally or protect your well-being and prevent others from hurting you emotionally by changing your perception or response? Can you share?
Yeah, you know, thank you. Thank you so much. I think that, you know, there are so many things in the world. And for me personally, I grew up in an environment in which I had a single mom in a single mom home. And a lot of times I really felt like people singled me out, right? Because maybe I didn't measure up. I didn't have the things. I grew up in that quintessential high school where all my friends got the brand new car and they got to travel to exotic vacations in the holidays. And I worked. I got a job at 14. And I think that a lot of times I became very harsh because I thought people were judging me and people were thinking, oh, look at her, the poor girl that, comes from that single mom home, or she doesn't have this. Where in reality, it was my perception of myself and who I thought I needed to be accepted and to belong. It took me a long time, to realize that my friends, for the most part, those who were real friends didn't care, that I drove that little jalopy car. My friends didn't care, that maybe my clothes were secondhand. It was me who was making that judgment. It was me who was choosing to be in that spot. And I think that for many of us. And by the way, that behavior is not something you turn on and off with like a switch. It's something that you continue to live with. And what I've learned now is, when I feel I'm being judged or when I feel I don't measure up, it's really noticing what is going on. Hey, I'm saying to myself, I don't belong in this room, or I'm saying to myself, oh, I am out of my league here, right? And for many times, and I love, what Heidi was sharing, those emotions are in our body, but we have to pause, take the pause. We live in a world in which we feel we need to react right away to what is going on, where we really must notice and be in that little piece of discomfort. And when we're judging ourselves or think the world is judging us, have a little compassion, mainly for the judge in us, and being aware of that inner judge, that inner critic, that then begins to bring on all these other thoughts that sabotage us, that put us in the defensive. So for me, that's a little bit of what I've learned, is take the pause. Notice, and by the way, not try to like get over the feeling, or not try to push away the judgment or the shame or whatever I might be feeling in the moment, but is really noticing and saying, oh, I'm telling myself a story that I am not enough. I'm telling myself a story, or when I feel dejected or judged, asking myself, where is that coming from? And beginning to really explore that. That's really one of the ways in which I've learned to hold space. Certainly not perfect, because by the way, I still react to things. I'm human, but it's in accepting our humanity and our brokenness that we also allow ourselves to continue to move forward, and with the goal of always being 1% better, right? And that's all we can say. Hey, I didn't do it well today, or I didn't move forward as much as I wanted to, but I'm going to focus on the step forward. I'm going to focus on that compassion for myself.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, and I do think that we all still possibly react, but it's how long we stay on it and how long we hold it, and how we can reduce the intensity of it real quick.
Yeah.
So,
And Kim, the reaction, I think a lot of times, and this is one of the things that I share with my clients a lot, the reaction for many of us comes when we are not giving ourselves the grace, the margin to, for instance, rest enough, or eat well, stay hydrated, go out into the sunshine. I know yesterday I was more reactive to my husband too, right? We especially because we are the most reactive to the people that we are the closest to. Our little dog got hurt, and he's been crying every single night. And my husband has been happily sleeping while I've been up and trying to soothe the dog. So my sleep has definitely been disturbed. And I realized, and that's when the curiosity came about. He wasn't trying to annoy me. It was me lacking sleep, me being in that space where it's easier to revert to old patterns and old thoughts and old behaviors that really caused me to sabotage. So
absolutely.
That's what I encourage people to kind of notice as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Julie Nelson, the other Julie, you're next.
Julie.
Yeah, can you share a personal experience where you've been able to protect yourself emotionally?
Oh my goodness, I've had many. Through all of my life experiences, I've learned how to manage or protect myself. And how I do that is by owning my power as a woman, as who I am. And I've learned to do that very well. And I'm very conscious of responding rather than reacting. And sometimes, of course, I react, but I've trained myself really well to, I mean, probably most of us here have, because it's a part of our work and what we support other people with doing. And I'm very much about conversing with my limbic. You know, when my limbic wants to come in and have its say, and of course it's all about protecting us. But, you know, I'm an affirmation person. I've been using them for 30 years, and I use the power of scent to work with them because it anchors in to the brain. And so it's been about retraining my brain, but also I keep coming back to self-love. My own self-love is my greatest protection for dealing with different challenges or experiences that come into my life. And that's what I love about being where I am right now, is my self-love, because that has created a very empowered, unapologetic woman that I am. So, yeah, it's a beautiful place to be, but it's taken me over, 6 decades to get there. So,
and it sounds like someone who is in control of who they be, rather than being controlled by the emotion.
Yeah, I don't like the word control, and I'll just share with you why. Just recently, some conversations have been coming up about people saying you must control your emotions. And of course, I haven't been able to help myself, and I've gone and said, no, we need to feel them so that we can move through them. If we resist them, they're just going to build up in our body and cause ill health. So control, what's a better word for it? I manage. I think I manage. I understand myself extremely well. I have been through some extreme trauma, and in my life, those experiences, although you wouldn't wish them on other people, and you just don't want to go through them, and sometimes you think you can't go through them, they are what have made me the woman that I am today. So it's always seeking the opportunities in anything that wants to take you down on and when I'm talking about some traumas, they are external, that affect us on an internal way. So yeah, my love for myself is my greatest protection. That's what I would honestly say, because it's recognizing, acknowledging, accepting. Then we can step into the inner healing that brings self-love, that brings self-worth, confidence, attraction, magnetism, and manifestation. So that's my little formula.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Miss Heidi, you're next. Can you
Thank
share
you.
an experience?
I really appreciate everything Julie and Julie said. Absolutely. I'm going to bring up two things, and one I think really rides on both of this is becoming friends with your emotions. It's like when Julie's talking about the control thing. If I'm trying to control my emotions, if I'm trying to do that, it's like trying to control a 2-year-old. How many people actually control a 2-year-old? Because a 2-year-old's so in their emotions and so in their being, they take over the room. That's why kids always win. If you want to try this control battle, a kid will always win because they love their emotions. They don't know that any of their emotions are bad yet. They just be. And that's why you can also see a 2-year-old throw a temper tantrum. And when they don't get their way, they're done. And they go on because they haven't been trying to control it. They let it pass. They understand it's natural. And I think as adults, we have to learn to become friends with our emotions again. What I want to talk about is when you talk about, external factors that hurt us, especially for the young, like Julie N was saying before. When I was young, I was brought up in an extreme environment. I just put it that way. If anybody's interested in the story, they can download one of my free books or something like that. I don't talk about it a lot because it's not who I really am. But for many, many years, I didn't even talk to my mother. I just totally disowned her for 5 years because, quote, every time I got around her, she hurt me. When I finally delved into some things and started understanding her background and her perspective and what she was doing, I realized she wasn't hurting me. She hurt so much inside that she was just spitting it out. And I could continue to be a hurt person that would now be triggered by that hurt, and it could take me out. Or I could understand most of the time, people very seldom intentionally try to hurt us. But it's their hurt that comes out. It's their ability to reaction. And if we can step back and try to see from their perspective, then the people that are in our lives that, I hated not being able to talk to my mom for 5 years, but I learned and figured out in that time frame how to have a relationship with her. So part of protecting is also being able to set those emotional boundaries. Learning to watch the people in my world that I'm around a lot and say, oh, they're starting to go down that path. It may be time for me to leave. Or it may be time to distract the conversation. Again, if you've ever had kids or been around kids or raised them, it is the art of distraction. When they start going down that emotional rabbit hole, distract them. Oh, look, here's the bunny. Oh, all of a sudden they forget they're upset because they don't have the dog because now they have the bunny. So some of that, in order to protect ourselves, we need to learn how to interact with other people, recognize people that are healthy for us, because when somebody is mean continuously, it gets very draining. It's very hurtful.
Yeah.
I don't have to be around somebody who's going to create that in my world. I have that choice to say, you're not somebody I want in my world, because I don't want to. Yeah, I can spend a lot of energy not being hurt by them. But why do I want to do that? Unless they're a very special person that I do want to help, a relative that may be sick or something. I've been through a number of traumatic brain injuries with family members and stuff, and their personalities change. And they can become pretty mean people. But again, understanding that that's their stuff that they're putting on me, not me, I think is another way to really, in a bigger way, protect ourselves in environments where, people are in our lives.
Thank you. Thank you. And yes, when people that we love change, it becomes difficult. So that understanding is so important. But thank you. And Claudia, for you, wonderful experience here that's taught you.
The same as Julie N. I've had many experiences, so I kind of resonate with all the ladies here. It's just going within yourself, and it's not easy at the time when you're going through that experience or having that experience, and the power of pause. And I think, I can't remember who mentioned it, but it's in taking a breath. If you're feeling attacked in any way, or just not, you can see what's going on, but you don't want to respond in an emotional way. So I think what helps me is finding my own peace. So it's the pause and checking in with my emotions. And I think just taking a break, if it's a relationship or whatever it is, just that pause so I can go do my work. And then if I need to address it with somebody, I can come back in an assertive way and still with boundaries, setting my boundaries, because I think that's also something coming from a people-pleasing sort of thing, which I've had to learn to work on because of my childhood experiences, etc. I think it's also getting to know yourself. I still, I mean, Julie N mentioned, she's still working, and it's a work in progress, and it's self-love, which I so agree with. And it's finding that inner peace, which is not always easy. It's not always easy.
Yeah.
But I also think the shadow work comes in. Carl Jung's shadow work. And it takes courage to work on that, to actually see what you're putting out there, or to see what's coming back to you and to analyze that. But that helps, I find, for me. And I also find when I do this work with my clients, it's like, wow, okay, a little, they get like a wow moment, like, okay, it makes sense. Not everything, but it's a start. So I think it's, we're always working on ourselves. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And yes, always working on ourselves. It's a never-ending journey, I do believe. The next question is an important one, I believe, because it's to do with how, from an early age, we take on this victim mentality, and we tend to blame the external or others for how we feel. And how, I'd like your thoughts on how that leads to emotional vulnerability and distress in a person, by actually blaming others or blaming the external, by not learning what we're discussing today, to own our own stuff. So if we could start with Julie D on that one. Julie, your thoughts on?
One of the biggest things that I think I want to go back to, and I don't know how Sophia does this, by the way. There's a little magic that the way that she figures out how these panels are going to put together. I think for many of us, right, we continue to tell ourselves this story that really creates a lot of this turmoil inside us. And for many of us, we're so afraid to look at what we are experiencing. I know that a lot of times I will say to clients, if they're going through something challenging, either in relationships or in things that are happening, it's easier to blame an outside force. It's easier to look outward than it is to look inward, because there's so much fear of, what am I going to find? Am I broken? What is going on? And I think that this is the one thing that I want to encourage us to normalize, that we're not broken. We're human. We're living the experience. For many of us, the hurt that we carry also is that, if it is the hurt that came before us, is that hurt that has been passed on from generations that we haven't really addressed, or we are afraid. And for many years, and I want to raise my hand, I never acknowledged that trauma is not something that happens to that person. It's something that's happened to all of us in one way or another. And really being able to process some of that emotion gives you the ability to be able to show up in a better way for yourself. So don't be afraid, and put yourself in a position in which we've said this already, right? Curious, what's going on? be open, because there's so much out there that as we embrace it, we are in a better spot. And then more importantly, we can turn in and create a ripple effect for the others around us, right? Because if we do the work for ourselves, it's not that we're going to make others do the work in themselves. Others are going to then not be impacted when we are reactive. They're going to be impacted by our ability to have that sage mind that is guiding us, as opposed to that reactive mind.
Thank you. There's so much in there, in understanding that. Julie Nelson, for you, victim mentality.
Yes. How, I was looking at the wrong question. How it leads to vulnerability and distress. If we stay in that victim and blaming everybody else, it can turn us into being a very bitter, unwell person, especially psychologically and emotionally. And that's what it can lead to, just quite simply, for me, in a nutshell. And again, it's really with the next two questions, I'm not sure if we'll have time to get through them, but it's about one, breathing, pausing, as it's been said, and really looking into the self, like inner reflection. And I really believe when people may not even be aware. I've known people like this. They're not even aware that this is what they're doing, and whether they're conscious of it or not, we always have that choice. And for some, perhaps it's easier to stay in that place than look within to see what is going on, because as I think it was Claudia said, it takes a lot of courage to do that. And in our shadow aspect of ourselves, especially for women, I am going to say that, has long been suppressed. We've not been allowed, we've been taught we're not allowed to express, and it comes out in ways of nastiness, bitching, because we're unhappy and we haven't been able to express ourselves. And so embodying that shadow self, which is some of the work that I do, our shadow self is our power. It is our absolute power, and it is an essential part of our being. It's how we use that power, and it's about retraining ourselves so that we can step into an empowered version of us and live a more healthy life and have a more healthy mind, have that emotional well-being and the inner strength. So working on the nervous system, because most people are in that situation of being in distress constantly and feeling vulnerable and feeling like nothing's ever working out on them, their weakest point is their nervous system. And so it's tapping into it and being able to strengthen it. And there's many, many ways that can be done, through meditation, through natural herbs, essential oils. So, it's important to have support to guide us into, we can change. We can change all of that. But again, it's a process, and the support helps to give people the motivation to be able to step out of that distress and vulnerability.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Heidi, for you, victim mentality, how does that affect?
Well, we all have the victim archetype in us. I know a lot of us don't like to admit that, but we do, just like we have an inner child, just like we have a judge, we have that part of us. And it does serve a very good purpose when we learn how to have a friendship with it, because it is what says that outside thing is not good for me. I need to back away from it. That's that sort of healthy role of it. However, when we stay in a victim mentality, we are subject to the rest of the world. And
Yes.
unfortunately, if you look at a lot of the media programs, you look at commercials on TV, you look at the stuff that we're constantly hit at, it is designed to keep us in a victim mode, because then we need outside things to heal us. We need outside things to make us happy. You know, that car over there will stop me from feeling so bad because I don't have money. So there's a lot of that sort of mentality that's tied up in it. But I'm pretty straightforward. When we choose to stay in that victim mode, especially, you know, again, if you just don't know, if nobody's had the conversation with you about it, and all you've ever been exposed to is kind of the outside world, you don't necessarily know you have a choice. But once you have that choice, it's important to understand that you're still responsible for everything that's happened in your life. You know, being a victim, quote unquote, says it's your fault this happened. But in doing that, I'm responsible for keeping myself in that bad place. So it's really, you know, it's really owning the fact that every part of us, the victim and everything, is serving some positive purpose that our mind is perceiving. Now, it may not be positive for us, it may not be healthy for us, but something inside of us sees it. We're getting something out of it. And sometimes we really have to take a look at, what does being the victim, you know, and I'll ask that question. One of my absolute favorite questions is, what's this about? Because I'll feel my victim coming up. And I feel like this morning when I was angry, it's like the perfect morning for this conversation. You know, it's like, I'm angry, you're doing this, you're making me feel blah, 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 blah. I have to sit back and say, well, what's this all about? Oh, I really just want to be pissy. It's not their fault. Yeah. I am choosing this. They didn't make me pissy. They didn't make me happy. I mean, this also goes in the other way. You know, again, many times the victim mentality is, oh, you've made me so happy, you love me, you're this. And then the person, for whatever reason, goes away, which truly has nothing to do with you, even though we want to believe it does. It has nothing to do. Oh, now you've gone away. I'm so unhappy. I'm so unhappy. But, you know, the reality is, what are you getting out of that? And many times the energy of what we say, quote unquote, are negative emotions tends to initially feel so much more energizing. But if you actually pay attention, you get a hangover from it. Our bodies are designed to be in joy, literally, and you can look at it chemically. When I'm in these negative victim mentalities, I'm creating stress hormones, which hurt my body, cause disease, break down tissue, all of those kinds of things. When I am in what we term as the positive emotions, I'm actually creating the chemicals that heal my body, that restore my body, that help me to sleep better, and all the things that I need. So we're designed to have those positive emotions, but because of the stories in our heads, we've made the negative ones bad.
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting challenge that way. So,
yeah,
but I challenge everybody I work with that says it's a victim. My question is, what purpose is that serving in your life? It's doing something for you.
Yeah, I think the greatest awareness of it that ever occurred in my life when I realized that I was the cause of all of my suffering, because of the stories I told myself and the beliefs I believed. It was a painful time to recognize that moment. but also an empowering one, because if I did that to myself, I can change it. And that's where the empowerment came. So it was wonderful.
And that's really important to understand. It does take bravery. You know, as Julie N was saying, you need the support, because when you decide to take that deep look at yourself, then you get angry at yourself.
Yes.
And you're mad at yourself. And then how could I have let this happen? And
But
you
then
have
you
to
grow.
move through that, right? And
Yeah.
then you move through that and you grow. And it is through support, I believe, that we heal the easiest and the fastest.
It's like moving away from the darkness to the light. You just change direction. So thank you for that. Okay, I'm very aware of time, so I just want to come in. And Claudia, for you, victimhood. How is that, your thoughts on that?
I've been there, and I didn't realize it, actually. So it was this, I needed the outside validation. And when it hit me, it wasn't about the other people, it was about me. I needed to validate myself, see my self-worth, and trust myself. I was putting my power, giving my power away so easily. And I had to learn to pull back. And that took me a long time to learn, to pull back and self-preserve and put up the boundaries and protect and honor myself first. And I know we're short on time, so I'll just leave it as that.
Oh, wonderful, thank you. It is a journey. It is a journey. But because of time, what I'd like to do is just briefly go around the room, starting with Julianne. Just what advice could you give people who are in this place of looking at this wording of no one can hurt you emotionally except yourself? And what kind of where would you send them direction-wise?
Honoring yourself and where you're at the moment, for me, like really owning it. And it's okay. It's absolutely okay. We're mere mortals. You know, we make mistakes, and look at the opportunities for growth through those mistakes or things that are out of alignment with you. And again, when you're going through the darkest night of your soul, you know, you're going through those big, courageous changes, it is important to have support where it's not that you're being told what you need to do, it's about being held in a safe container that will give you the feeling of being safe to move through it. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much. Heidi, what would you suggest?
Julie, I love what you said. I really do, because for me, it really is becoming your own best friend. You live with from conception to your last breath. You are your primary friend, your primary partner, your primary relationship. You know, when you think about it, when nobody else is in the room, who is there with you? It's you. And that's where, when we can really learn that compassion and that kindness towards ourselves, even when we're, you know, even after I've done, you know, I still do the rants in my head. You know, I call it the amygdala hijack. My amygdala in my brain just taking over, and it's going on and it's having a grand old time. And when I finally recognize that and use the tools to say, oh, wait, this is what I'm doing. What used to happen is I'd be then pissed off at myself for having done that to myself, to blah, blah, you know, and on and on and on. And now it's like, oh, my amygdala just had a really good time for about 10 minutes. You know? Okay, we're stopping it now. I'm exhausted. You know, for me, it's like my pity parties went from 3 days to about a minute and a half, because after a minute and a half, it's like, yeah, I'm just doing a pity party. Okay. I'm glad you, and I'll even pat myself. It's like, I'm so glad you had a pity party. Okay, can we be done, please? And I can hear, we try to say we have this mono mind. We don't. We have all these beings that are hanging out in us, but they're all us. So just being friends with yourself. Be your primary relationship. That's what we have to learn to develop, is that primary relationship with ourselves rather than the outside world.
Thank you. And I love the expression pity party. Yes, I know them well. I know them well. Claudia, for you to now, your suggestion.
Yes, well, I agree with what Julie D and Heidi. It's the inner dialogue, paying attention to how you're speaking to yourself. And like Heidi said, to strengthen the relationship with ourselves and trust ourselves. I think we are and need to be our own best friends first before anything else. I totally agree with that statement. And trusting who we are. I think that's a big thing. Trust who you are and know and get to know yourself. How can you support yourself going forward? It's not an easy journey, but it's a journey worthwhile doing. It's going to take time, but it's take it slowly to get to know yourself again. What have you lost? What part of yourself? What do you need to regain? Yes, like I said in the beginning, it's like a work in progress, but all worth it. Thank you
so much. And last but not least, Julie D, for you and your advice.
I think my friends have said it all. The one thing that I would add to everything that they said is we have this wonderful gift inside us, and they're called mirror neurons. Find the community that's doing the work. Here it is, right? Find the people who are doing it because, number one, we learned from them. Number two, they pour into us. Number three, they remind us, hey, I've been there. And they normalize for us that we're not alone in this process. And yes, having that compassion, hearing how we talk to ourselves, everything that these ladies have said is so important. But again, you're not alone. And we are not meant to be alone. We're meant to be in community. We're meant to be connected. A lot of times when we spiral because we think the world is out to get us, and we're saying to ourselves, like Heidi was talking about this amygdala hijacking. I love that. It happens because we're out in the island, and then we think we are the only one. But when we are in the presence of others who are in this journey, then we realize that, we're not unique. We are programmed to think of the worst. That's what has allowed us to evolve to where we are today. So if you are in this place and you find yourself spiraling, or you find yourself that you're forgetting, or you're having these great days, and then all of a sudden you beat yourself up because, oh my gosh, I did it again, or, oh, that person is really out to get me, right? And you revert to that behavior that's automated in you, then find your community, find the people to connect where you are going to have that believing mirror. The concept of somebody else believing in you when you don't have the ability to believe in yourself is important. And that's what a community like this one does. So make sure that you connect and make sure that you don't do the work alone, because we're not meant to do it alone. We're meant to come alongside with each other and walk along together.
Thank you so much. And ladies, I'd like to thank all of you for today, for sharing your wisdom, your understanding and your passion. And it's been very beautiful. And in regards to Julie D, finding your community, absolutely. It's all about, that's what Sacred You is all about. It's about community and coming together. So thank you for being a part of today. It's been my pleasure to be with you. I now pass you over to our lovely Sophia.
Oh my God. Can I just say, oh my God, what an amazing panel. And I just also want to thank you. Also, just before we continue, just really want to acknowledge we've had a lot of comments from people in the audience. I have been putting in the chat from Joita and Sally on Facebook and other people on Facebook, and I'm really sorry I haven't got your names. And also LinkedIn. We've had people watching us on LinkedIn. So thank you, everyone, for joining us for today's panel. It has been an honor, and I hope you got all your questions answered. If you need anything else, do put them in the chat. I will pass them on to the panelists. And we also have Ali in our audience. And Ali, I'd really like to invite you to come on camera if you would like, because Ali's been asking, how do you escape the victim mentality for good? And we've had some amazing advice and some amazing wisdom shared. But Ali, if you have any other questions, or if you would like to know more, please let us know. I said you're welcome to come on camera. Or does anyone else in our panel, just before we wrap up, do you have any other advice for Ali about escaping this for good, like letting it go? Let's just take one. Anyone else want to share anything?
I'll share something with that.
Yes.
I don't know that you can ever let the victim go away.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of us. We're made up of these different personalities. What you do is you become friends with it. Just like it's a 2 or 3 year old child. And when part of the reason the victim becomes so strong is it's not being heard. You know, the voices in our head become so strong because they have something to say. They're there. They're not feeling safe. There's some positive, it's hard to believe, but there's some positive purpose that the victim serves. If you can have a conversation and stop being mad at it and just understanding that that part of you needs some attention and wants to know. And then when it comes up, it comes up. You know, it comes up for me every once in a while. And sometimes I'd really like to just blame the outside world for stuff. And I think, I don't know, Ali, if you've had any severe trauma or abuse or things like that, again, when we're children, especially, and our neurology has been trained sometimes that way, we either do the extreme, we become the victim, or we become the so overbearing, I will never be a victim kind of person. So you have to look at the whole picture. But again, it for me, like I think all of us said, it's making friends with your internal self and creating that relationship and not making yourself bad for the victim and not being afraid of the victim.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much for that, Heidi and Ali. I hope that helps. I said, if you have any other questions, please pop them in the chat. And Ali saying thank you very much. So thank you, Heidi. And thank you everyone for joining us. Now, we have been putting everyone's links in the comments. So for everyone who's watching us live on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube, do click on these links below and connect with these amazing women. They have such powerful wisdom to share. They've just given up more than an hour of their time to share their wisdom and their passion, and they're helping us, you know, to let go of all our emotions and to stand in our power. So thank you. Coming up, again, do click on the links below. Check out our website, the sacredyou.love website. We have some amazing panels coming up in 3 days' time. I do believe it is 3 days' time. Yeah, in 3 days' time is the art of surrender, trusting the divine plan, and so many, many more panels coming up. Usually we would go around and get everyone to share a little bit, one offer and stuff. But like I said, we have put all those links in the comments and we are running out of time. Check out sacredyou.love and check out everyone else's websites. That's all I'm going to say. Everyone's been here. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Thank you, Trina, for being in the background. It's really, really appreciated. And thank you, Ali, for joining us on Zoom, and everyone else who's been watching us. Do come and check us out again next time very soon. Bye.